This is Loan Officer Success Stories with Josh Blair, brought to you by the Mortgage Sense team. I appreciate you joining us. Today we have Brad Roche here with Element Home Loans. Brad, how long have you been in the mortgage business?
We're on 31 years, brother. Thanks for having me on today.
31 years.
Long
Holy
time,
cow.
right?
31 years. I mean, that's longer than most people are in any job, times two. What brought you to the mortgage business?
Same as you. My dad did it to me. So
How's
that for an answer? My dad did it to me. Your dad did it to you. Yeah, and
Fair
it's been
enough,
a
fair
good
enough.
ride though. It's been fun. Yeah, he started me 1993. I was co-oping in high school, in skipping some classes to go to work, and started helping him make home buyer workbooks and some graphic design stuff that we did, and ran a newspaper that he had me start doing. Actually was one of the first roles. It was called American Home Buyer, and it was a publication that you would pick up at the grocery store for free, one of the newspaper ones. But what we did was we put all kinds of our realtor partners' houses in there at the time. That was the main way, not internet, of finding a property, So we would put them all in there, make it, and do it for free. And he would print them up. We'd go pay to have the print house do them. It was pretty cool experience. Learned a lot laying stuff out, and also supporting partners that are in the business. And we ran a full page in there, of course, It's a good learning experience of it. That's how I got into it. Then I started processing for a bit. That didn't go as well.
Awesome. That's great. So when did you say, hey, this is my job. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life? I mean, you've been in the business for 31 years. Obviously, at some point you said, this is where I want to be. How did that come about?
Wow. Okay. I would say that came about riding to my dad's office before I knew what it was, going with him to work to hang out a little bit. I loved it. I love the office stuff. If you look at my office, I've got all kinds of cool stuff in here that I've collected over the years. And like, this is the lab, right? This is where it gets done. So I always had just a draw to it. Like, I don't know, man, it's weird. Like, I like Office Max, right? It's weird. so I got it. I like that part of it. And then learning the deal or the structure of how to put a deal together. That's a pretty neat concept. I think that DULP took away from a lot of loan officers as that's grown. But putting the deal together is still an art. It still has to fit in DULP and stuff versus someone underwriting it like we used to do, but yeah, that's a big part.
So do you like doing puzzles and stuff too in your spare time, or is this just where you get your puzzle making, dude?
No puzzles. If I go on a putzing time, I like to work on different aspects of my business. That to me is a hobby as well. It's nice. And there's been years, I'm sure, where I hated my hobby, I guess, and wasn't into it as much. But over the years, I've found that, like, if Angela's gone for a couple hours doing something and I've got some downtime, I would much rather work on a part of my business with no distractions, real clarity, overlooking it from a different perspective that you don't always get in the day. I would rather do that than clean the garage. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not much of a golfer,
So this is your passion. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it's turned into that. I don't know if it was like that always, but yeah, I enjoy what I'm doing. Not every day, the day to day, right? So people would say, "Oh, it's like you could retire." I love what I'm doing. Some of the day to day stuff you get into, whether it's clientele, you're still dealing with the public, ups and downs, the woes, the markets, all of that takes a toll on you. But I think the longer I've been in it, the more I've been prepared. Right? First coming into it. 9.5's good, man. Sign up today. That's where rates are at. And I know you could hear some old man stories, but it was 9. I didn't know any better. But then when you see 3, and then you say 9, and you say 7. It's like, man, right. It's the bounce of the market that
Yeah.
really can throw you. And so that the job is to be prepared and handle the cards that you're dealt. And you sell the cards that you're dealt, and the properties and the appreciation. It's still always been a good investment ever since I've been in it. I mean, even in 2008, you would buy a default house or something like that at a discount.
Yeah.
So, it's being prepared. That's a big part now.
Yeah. I mean, home ownership is the key to the American dream, right? And so
Easiest way
that's
to make some
exactly
money.
what we do. Right. So I want to talk a little bit about your coaching side as well. Not only are you a very successful loan officer and you close loans, but you also coach other loan officers. Tell me, how did you get into that? How did you get into that side?
I had been doing loans for probably about 5 years. So I started doing loans about 17, right, in the newspaper and doing stuff like that, and eventually got into processing for a bit. So fast forward about 4 years in, I was originating, and we were doing good. 20, 25 loans, 30 loans a month, on my end of it. At that time, I decided that I wanted to get trained, right? So I went to
Mm-hmm.
several seminars and found a guy that I worked well with. And I asked him, it was a recruiting seminar that I went to. And it was the best recruiting. I didn't work for him at the time. We owned our own shop at the time. But I went to the seminar. I loved what he had to say, different approach. And maybe not even different. I might have heard it different. That's what I can tell you. Different. You can hear the same stuff from a lot of people, but sometimes you hear it different from certain people. So I'm sure my old man told me that. I heard it different. Okay, so we'll give credit.
Sometimes it just means you getting away from your family.
Yeah, right. But it was another level, and it was intriguing. And I stayed after that event. I went for a 2-hour drive. Took my dad with me, and then eventually the guy had called me. Rick had called me and said, "I'm opening up a coaching platform. Do you want to join?" And I didn't go to college, and so I was making $100,000. I was 22, 23. I wasn't hurting for money. I was well over that. Blessed to be able to do it, but I off to a good start. Good mentor. My dad helped me got rolling. Well, then so it comes. Do you want to invest $2,000 a month in your career? It's like, geez, I didn't even do that for school. You know what I'm saying? It's like, will I show up? Will I be a good student? Am I coachable? There's a lot of things that run through your head when you start putting some dollars out. And my dad said, yeah, I think you need to do this. We didn't do college. Let's do this. So it was a 2-year agreement. So $48,000 sign up, right? And that was big money because that was 1995, 96, 97, somewhere in there. And I was the first call he had. I was on with the Maniac, and I tell him that, it's a good friend of mine to this day, Maniac loan officer, 35, 40 closings a month. Every month was banging over 100,000 on his pay log, his commission, his cut. Unbelievable producer. Every client got brownies the day they were approved from his aunt. And there were things I learned, like what's some key ingredients. Well, the other guy on the call, so it was a call of 3. There was me, and my Maniac, who did tons of loans and was wild man. And then you had Dave, who was on the call, so Vinny and Dave. And Dave was the opposite. He was what would I use? Does astute, is that a right word, where you say a little bit more fancy, a little bit more proper? I'd call him a banker. That's what I'd call him. You know what I'm saying? You walk into the bank and they're a little stuffier than the loan rep style I've been raised on. Well,
and not a sales guy. He's a
no.
very rigid. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And Vinny, on the other hand, the other guy, the Maniac, he was an ex-ski instructor, right? 40 loans a month, ex-ski instructor. What? Crazy. And then you got no college kid, don't even making more than he deserves, don't spending more than he knows how to make, right? Still in debt, no doubt about it. And then got my other guy over here, and he had the practice. That's how he referred to his business. And man, the staples at a young age that I got out of that was always treat the client right and plus some. That's where a lot of my training came from was, man, are you delivering better than the guy next to him? Do they get your Aunt Debbie's best baked brownies with caramel that yeah, right? Are you getting, no, I don't do that. I got to get them something, right? And then you had Dave over here where he said, it's my practice. And when you came in, you would meet the greeter of first impressions, not the secretary, the master of first impressions. And it was just a level that he played at and he played at that was like they both had something that was really neat. And as I got into it, I ended up, it elevated my game. I'm a guy who wants to keep up. I don't like being last. I looked for what they did wrong. I'll be honest with you. I looked for, while they were ahead of me, by 10 loans a month. Easy. Okay. I looked at what they did wrong. What are they doing that, well, this guy's doing a lot right. This guy's doing a lot right. Oh, shit, I'm doing a lot right. Okay. What is this guy not doing that I'm doing that's working? What's this guy not doing that Dave's doing? Right. So I started looking at our two businesses against their one and so on and so forth and listening in on lots of different trainings. So I started to pick apart where I could do it easy. What would be the easiest to implement? He sends brownies. Wow, I can't send anything out at approval, and they need to be to par because he goes on about the brownie. I caught what he's doing. He's over exaggerating about how great they are, and they were good. But he sold them. In other words, it was part of his process. Part of his name of the company was Family Lending. He's bringing you into the family, so it was kind of it worked. So I started looking at that, and then I started filling holes, and I trained myself, I know I did, to be a very good implementer. Very good implementer. Like if you it may not be perfect, but I'm going to tell you what, it's going to be right at that 90% mark or higher if I'm going to do it. And it's not to say that they wouldn't have flaws. I'm pointing that out on purpose because so many guys I've worked with, coaching side or not, wait till it's perfect. Man, I'd be still waiting on several things that some of them kicked off great, some didn't, but I became a master implementer. And I think
perfect is the enemy of good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can do it good, it's going to do better than waiting for it to be perfect.
100%. And I wanted to stay ahead. So I started looking at what could implement quick. So I got into that young age, 25, I dropped, 50 grand to get educated. Took me out of here's a funny part. You ready for this? When I started, I was well over 100 grand. I'd be guessing if I told you. I know I didn't make $500,000 net yet, but I know I was making more than 100, maybe two. Still had 50 grand in credit card debt. 50,000, right? So, if I wanted a new shirt, buddy, I'm getting a new shirt. I was working, right? But I was young, dumb, never taught a budget. So part of our training on that was we had to turn in a budget every month. And I saw these other guys saving money. Like I wasn't saving money, let alone I was charging money. And these guys are depositing savings like 20 grand. And they're getting their butt chewed for it not being enough. It was embarrassing. I got embarrassed by a budget. Now keep in mind, I'm depositing $30,000, $40,000. You're saving what? And it'd be so minimal to the comparison. Well, anyway, fast forward. During that 2-year period, I became debt free. I know I had well over 100 grand in the bank from it, changing the dollars, using them right. Changed how I looked at credit applications for clients. A lot changed in my business over those 2 years. Grew up, right? Went to college 2 years. And then I was offered a job afterwards. All three of us were, his first group there, were offered a job at 100 grand a year, part-time. So at that time, I was 25 or 26. And it was 100. My dad said, "Whoa, right? Part-time job for 100, that's unheard of." And this, So, and we had to get on the phone every 2 weeks and coach 6 people, 2 groups of 3, similar to how we'd been taught over the last 2 years. And from there, I took on more groups. In that position, I looked for what coaches didn't do that I could do better, what they would get bragged about for doing good, and how could I bring that to my game, right? So as you're finding, I'll look for highlights or characteristics or things you like, right, about someone else, and how can I adapt that into my character if it's a good adaptation, right? If I can
Yeah.
fit that. I don't know how else to explain it. So
You're
I look
always learning. You're always looking for improvements and
learning
things
and
that you can
yeah,
do
but you
better.
got to put it into play. You got to put it into play, and that's where I watched my dad. And it's no knock to him, but he was a great thinker, not a great implementer. And I tell him that to this day. But when we came together, that 20 closing a month turned into over 100 a month in our heyday. 100 closings a month. We were doing more loans than we could. It was fantastic. Now, that all came with learning, but it was taking it and implementing it. And that's where you learn to hire someone great for your team. You know, can you hire someone that may be able to strengthen something that's not as strong in you? You know, and that's
So
bringing another one on.
let's talk about that. Let's kind of dive into that. What does your team look like right now?
So my team is very family oriented now. So I've had a lot of different team members over the years, but now I have Angela, who is training Sarah as a loan partner one and monitoring the deals as they go through. You would call them a pipeline manager,
Okay.
concierge, Tuesday updates every week and making sure that expectations are met. And then I've got, so you have those two. Then I've got Joe and Jacob, my son, and his best friend Joe, and they work as junior LOs, both licensed, and they go out to get business, meet with realtors, do presentations. They're on the road, or they're supposed to be on the road more than they're in house, looking for business, meeting with realtors, presenting, taking care of the agents, taking care of financial planners, monitoring the deal, doing set planning calls for clients.
Yeah.
So they'll join me a lot on that. So together, that's the whole team. And then we have the marketing side here, which is the coaching side, a different department, if you want to call it that. My other son works in that and helps on that side as well. So all family, and then we got a dog too. 2 dogs, 3 dogs.
What does your dog do? I mean, does your dog just model for?
Well, he is beautiful, and the pictures are good, but he does stink sometimes. It's not always the best smelling dog.
Sure. So let's talk, and we're right up on the time here. I promised I would only take a little bit of your time. You work for Element Home Loans. How long have you worked for Element, and why did you choose Element specifically?
10 years I've been with him. It's an interesting, right? So 18 years when my dad had started the company and I took over, that was how I ran in the mortgage business. I was the boss, or it was dad, and it was as close as you could get. So to move to North Carolina and take on a boss for the first time, I picked a company that was out. They weren't even in the Carolinas. Went fine for a while, and then I went to Element. And why did I go there? I like the guys. I think you have to go where you like. So many guys look at. I don't want to call it. It's maybe an offer. Maybe the programs. Like I've never. Like you got to have conventional and FHA. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
VA.
sure.
Like those are the basic. But I've never been one to go after the product. It was always the guy or the staff or the leadership team that I knew I could work with and understood my personality. I don't think top producers are always the easiest people to work with. They're not. You can be demanding. I have been. I think you learn it as you go. You get a little hot. Things, so you want to have someone that understands you and can run with you, and we have that here. It's been, and they've allowed me to excel, right? And tap into other things that I want to do or manage how I want and still have the feeling I had 18 years of running my own, but yet I got a partner that's there with you. Good time, bad time. I've been through both markets. I got a $13.8 million month back there, a plaque, and I remember not closing one loan, and it's happened to the best of us. So,
Yeah.
You got to have that support system, and how do you put a dollar on that, right?
Right. So you have a support system, but you also have a sense of ownership, and you have the freedom to build your own brand, but still have like that safety net behind you.
Very much, and not as much as safety net. Partner, that's a partner. Like I picture, you have your wife at home as a partner. and how you rely on your significant other or that partner. Well, put it at work, right? Man, how much do I rely at home on Angela and a lot of things? And I mean, even just my happiness, right? It's your spouse, right? So how much do you really rely on the leadership at the place you work? Man, I would think it should be up there. And if you
Absolutely.
collaborate with the right people who fill the weaknesses, like my dad and I did for each other, even, and you can do that at a corporate level, the results go bigger. Not always as fast as you want, not always as efficient as you want, but it sure does. It sure does come into play a lot easier to get there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Brad, I appreciate you spending some time with us talking about your success and helping train those of us that are newer in the business and trying to learn from you guys that have done it before. If you are interested in this type of information, feel free to like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, and we're gonna teach you. We're gonna take a journey to figure out how to be the best loan officers and mortgage brokers that we can. Brad, thank you again. Really appreciate your insight.
Thanks, brother.
You have a great day.
You too.